What's up guys, Jock here from McMurphy Farms and welcome to today's video where I'll share everything you need to know on how to breed shrimp. This video is meant for novice or even advanced shrimp breeders. Please note that this video is going to be extremely long as I will be covering almost everything you need to know to get you started in the hobby and educate you so you can get the best possible outcome for you and your shrimp. Now before we start, we need to clarify the shrimp species that you would like to breed. You basically get three types of shrimp. Their common names are Neocaridina shrimp, Caridina shrimp and Sulawesi shrimp. Some of them require different conditions in order to breed. To achieve these conditions, you'll need to find out what shrimp you have and what shrimp you plan on buying or breeding. In the Caridina column, we've got two types, the tiger shrimp and also the crystal or bee shrimp. Under them, I'll list the most common ones you can find in the market. Next up, we have Neocaridina shrimp. Under them, I'll also list the most common ones. And lastly, we have Sulawesi shrimp. Now you are more than welcome to pause the video here to see what shrimp you would like to breed, as this will impact what you see in the rest of the video. Please do note that not every shrimp is listed here, but I did list the most common ones. Amani shrimp require different parameters in order to breed, and these I will cover in a future video. Amanus are Caridina shrimp and they fall within this column. Okay guys, so now that the shrimp names are out of the way, let's start. There are a few things that are essential or a necessity to get right in your aquarium in order to breed shrimp, and then there are things that will only allow you to increase the survival rate of your young and make your shrimp more comfortable in their environment. But the things on the right might not have as big of an impact as the things on the left that you should understand before trying to breed shrimp. So first we're looking at the things on the left. Starting with a filter. The most important thing with a filter is that it must not be able to suck up your baby shrimp. Baby shrimp are anything from 1mm to 3mm big. Most sponge filters will work great for shrimp. Just make sure that whatever filter you use, that the baby shrimp can't enter your filter. You can use stockings and pantyhose to cover your filter intake if you are scared that your filter might suck up some babies. Just make sure that if you use stockings to clear it of any debris every few days, as debris tends to build up and it might block your intake or burn out your pump. My honest advice is just to use a normal store-bought sponge filter from the start with a high pore count. Normally anything from 25 pores per inch should be okay, but preferably 30 pores per inch. It is also very important to understand why you have a filter in the first place. Most new people in the hobby believe that the reason we have a filter is to clean the water so that we can see through it and we don't have to look at a dirty aquarium. Now guys, this is partly true, but the main reason for having a filter is so that we can break down the ammonia that our livestock produce. You see, all our livestock produces ammonia. When the shrimp poop, the poop already started the decaying process and this releases ammonia, which is toxic to your shrimp. The same with feeding. All of the uneaten food can rot and it will cause ammonia. The bacteria that builds up over time in your filter breaks down this toxic ammonia into ammonium and ammonium into nitrite and then the nitrite into nitrates. Please watch our video on ammonia if you don't understand what I'm talking about, as this is very important for the survival of your livestock. While we're on the topic of filters, just remember that shrimp need oxygen to survive. This is created by breaking the surface of the water, either in the form of multiple bubbles breaking the surface of the water or just by rapid water movement close to the surface. Most filters will create oxygen exchange, but if you're looking for the perfect shrimp filter, you're more than welcome to go check out our video on the PAT mini filter. Okay, so now that you understand a filter, let's talk about water, or rather water parameters. Once again, this is one of the two necessities that you need to understand properly when breeding shrimp, and this is most likely the most important thing to understand. That's why I'm going to take my time explaining water and water parameters to you. Water parameters for each species of shrimp differ, and next to having a good filter, the most important thing here is to keep your water parameters correct as well as constant. The first water parameter we're going to look at is pH. pH stands for potential of hydrogen and is measured on a scale from 0 to 14. Closer to 0 meaning the water is more acidic, 7 meaning the water is more neutral, and closer to 14 meaning the water is more alkalinic. pH test kits are relatively cheap and can be found at most pet shops. But what pH do shrimp require? Well, starting with the Caridina shrimp, they require a pH of between 6 and 7. Bee shrimp require a pH of between 5.8 and 6.8, Neocaridina shrimp require a pH of between 6.5 and 7.5. Sulawesi shrimp require a pH of between 7.5 and 8.5. Next up we have GH. GH stands for the general hardness and is basically the amount of calcium and magnesium ions in the water measured in parts per million. GH test kits can also be bought at most pet stores. Caridina shrimp require a GH of between 4 and 8, bee shrimp between 4 and 6, Neocaridina shrimp between 6 6 and 8 and Sulawesi shrimp between 4 and 6. The next factor to consider is KH. KH stands for carbonate hardness. All that this means, it's the ability for the water has to buffer or the ability the water has for the pH to change very quickly. The older the aquarium is, the lower this figure tends to go. Caridina tiger shrimp require a KH of between 2 and 6, B shrimp between 0 and 4, Neocaridina shrimp between 1 and 4, and then Sulawesi shrimp between 2 and 4. Next up we have TDS. TDS stands for total dissolved solids. This is basically everything, all the solid particles that is not pH to O molecules in the water, from minerals, chemicals, ammonia, nitrites, nitrates, and all sorts of other particles. You can measure the TDS by using a TDS pen. Most pet stores sell them. A lot of people put too much focus on TDS, but basically I only use TDS as an indication of when to do water changes. When the TDS gets a bit high, I'll do a water change. Caridina tiger shrimp require a TDS of between 100 and 220, B shrimp between 100 and 180, Neocaridina shrimp between 150 and 250, and Sulawesi shrimp between 200 and 260. And then the last water parameter we're going to talk about is temperature. This is where everyone will have a different opinion, but the general recommendation is between 21 and 24 degrees Celsius. Only Sulawesi shrimp require a higher temperature of between 26 and 29 degrees. Now when it comes to temperature, consistency is the most important factor. If there are temp changes, you want them to be slow, not dramatic and quick. So watch our video about heaters to get a better understanding of temperatures. Bigger aquariums are always better for temperature control, as this normally creates more consistency. Bigger aquariums take longer to cool down and longer to warm up. This is why I will always suggest a 2 feet aquarium for breeding shrimp. In a 1 feet, things just go wrong too quickly. Now if you keep shrimp outside of the 21 to 24 degree recommendation, which a lot of people do, this is how it will affect your shrimp. Higher temperatures means shorter lifespan, quicker breeding, and they will eat more, but this might have a slight negative impact on the quality of the offspring. Lower temperatures on the other hand might give your shrimp a longer lifespan, their breeding cycle might be longer, and they will most likely eat less. I will always recommend to people to try and keep the temperatures at 21 to 24 degrees, because this will give your shrimp the perfect balance. You are more than welcome to deviate from this, but not more than 2 to 3 degrees. Okay guys, so now I covered the water parameters that your shrimp require. Now some shrimp, especially the Neocaridina shrimp, can survive outside of these parameters, but they most likely won't thrive. I know a few breeders who deviate from these figures, and at the end of the day it comes down to what works for you. These are your pets and you are responsible for creating the right environment for them. To understand how to create this perfect environment, we further have to discuss where water comes from. So let's talk water sources. You get tap water, which obviously comes from the tap, borehole or well water, which comes from under the ground, rainwater, well it's rain so it obviously comes from the sky, and then reverse osmosis water. This just means that the water has been filtered and has gone through an RO membrane. RODI water is as close to clean H2O as possible with almost nothing else in it. A video explaining RO water will be out within the next month. So for the most part, Neocaridina shrimp, the easier to keep shrimp, can survive and reproduce on tap or well water. Caridina shrimp, which is the harder to keep shrimp, might survive for a few months on tap water, but they tend not to do well, and normally slowly die off within a couple of months. So the alternative to tap water for the harder to keep Caridina shrimp is generally filtering the water and then filtering it through an RO membrane to turn it into RO or even RODI water. RO water is almost nothing but pure H2O, so the TDS of RO water should be between 0 and 5 parts per million. Now please don't think that shrimp will like pure RO water. Shrimp need magnesium, calcium and other minerals in order to survive and thrive. So normally with RO water or rainwater you need to remineralize. This means adding the right minerals back to the water. That will create almost the perfect environment for your shrimp to live in. This is done by adding any single of these products, each of them for a different shrimp. We refer to these products as salts. Please note that this is not the same salt that we use in saltwater aquariums, brackish water, or as a treatment for fish diseases. These salts mainly contain calcium and magnesium and a few other elements that your shrimp need. This is almost the only way known to us on how to create the perfect water quality for ornamental shrimp, and it is by far the easiest. I'll also do a video on how to remineralize RO water, and this will also be out soon. Okay guys, so having said all of this about water, I've bred Neocaridina shrimp on tap water a lot, and you don't need remineralized RO water for for Neocaridina shrimp, but something was always missing. I could tell that the shrimp was not 100% happy by looking at the number of babies and the number of random deaths. If you get less than 20 babies with your Neocaridina shrimp a few times, you should know that your water quality or feeding routine might not be perfect. When I switched over to RO water with added minerals and proper food, I saw an immense improvement in baby numbers, good solid molt, longer lifespan of the shrimp, and the shrimp actually grew a bit bigger. Okay, so now a quick summary. Neocaridina shrimp with tap water, yes. Caridina shrimp with tap water, no. You see guys, Caridina shrimp are way more sensitive than the other shrimp to water parameters and require RO water and shrimp salts. But there is still a problem if you keep Caridina shrimp. Shrimp salts and RO water can help you get to the ideal TDS, KH and GH, but pH is still a problem when it comes to Caridina shrimp. You see, even if the remineralized water that you have made has a pH of between 5 and 6, when you add that remineralized water to your aquarium, the pH goes up to 7, 7.5 or even 8 within the first month or two. We need something to keep the pH lower for the Caridina shrimp so that they can thrive. This is done by using a substrate that buffers the pH. All that this means is that this substrate should keep your pH at a constant of between 5.5 and 6.5 if using a 2 to 4 cm layer of the substrate. ADA Amazonia is proven to be hands down the best substrate in this category, and I believe the reason for this being that it contains trace elements that benefit your shrimp. But ADA sometimes come at a hefty price compared to something like Akadama, but I would say that it's definitely worth it if you see the number of extra babies you'll receive from ADA compared to something like Akadama. Just remember that this buffering or lowering of the pH only lasts about 9 months to 2 years, and sometimes even 3 years if you are lucky. There are othering buffering substrates like Shrimp King soil, which is discontinued, Protobio, and a few others that you can use, and some of them work extremely well. Just do your research before using any of them. Okay guys, so I'm more than halfway with this video, and since this video is very long and I know it's hard to concentrate for extended periods, so we're gonna take a short break and I'm gonna tell you a short story of my life. I'm ashamed to say this, but women used to call me ugly when I grew up. They literally said I'm ugly. That was very hard for me. But somehow, they all find out about all the money I'm making out of my shrimp hobby, and now they call me ugly and poor. Lame jokes aside, let's move on. We spoke about the two most important things that you need to get right when breeding shrimp, which is your filter and your water. Before we move on to the less important things on the right, let me quickly answer the question I get asked the most about keeping shrimp. What fish can I keep with my shrimp? So I have answers for two different types of people. We get shrimp keepers and then we get shrimp breeders. So let me answer the shrimp keepers first. You should be able to keep your shrimp with nanofish like Otocinclus, Rasboras, Guppies, Kubutai, Endless, Tetras and so forth. With this being said, they will eat baby shrimp, and sometimes they will even pick on the weaker adult shrimp. So yes, you can keep them together, but you will lose some baby shrimp and sometimes even adult shrimp. So provide your shrimp with enough hiding places and you should be able to keep your shrimp baby survival rates high and have a thriving community tank. Now my answer for shrimp breeders is no fish. Fish will eat shrimp. The rule is, if it fits in their mouth, they will eat it. Even Otocinclus, which is known to be shrimp safe, eat shrimp babies accidentally. I've seen this with my own eyes. So if you are serious about breeding shrimp, then this question should not even be on your mind. Don't keep fish with shrimp. That being said, I personally do keep Otocinclus in almost every single aquarium. This is to help me clean and maintain my aquarium. They are the only fish that are 99% shrimp safe. All of the others that I mentioned earlier are around 60 to 80% shrimp safe in my opinion. So now that you understand the most important things when it comes to breeding shrimp, let's move on and talk about the things that will increase the survival rate of your shrimp and give you more babies. The first thing is moss and plants. Moss and plants gives hiding places for your shrimp. It makes them feel more comfortable and less stress. They need somewhere to hide after molting or when they've had a very bad day. Think about standing outside in the sun the whole day. Most of us won't like it, so give your shrimp some shade and hiding places away from your light. Moss or plants also gives extra surface area for biofilm to grow, which is vital in your shrimp's diet, and your shrimp will be grazing on the plants quite often. Plants also help with the breakdown of ammonia. My favorite plants for shrimp are Hemianthus micranthomoides, also known as bullweed, Sapwassertang and also Crips. And no, shrimp do not eat healthy plants. Next up is driftwood. Once again, it provides hiding places and extra area for biofilm to grow. Just make sure you don't add too much driftwood because as the wood decays over time, it will promote algae growth, and we all hate cleaning algae. Wood can also increase the TDS of the water. So overall, just be careful of how much wood you add. Driftwood can also be used to slightly lower the pH as it releases tannins. The tannins can also be very beneficial to your shrimp. I try to put in a small piece of driftwood in every tank. Next up we have leaves. The leaves that we most commonly use in the shrimp hobby are Indian almond leaves, nettle leaves, guava leaves, mulberry leaves, walnut, peppermint leaves and spinach. Out of all of those leaves, I only use spinach that I feed once a month, and you will always find an Indian almond leaf in every tank. I don't use any of the other leaves. The spinach leaf I boil for 3 minutes and I feed a 5x5 cm piece in every aquarium. I remove whatever is not eaten after 24 hours. Indian almond leaves on the other hand has more or less the same benefit as driftwood, but I prefer using Indian almond leaves more than driftwood. If you want more info on Indian almond leaves, I already did a video and you can check that out. Just note that Indian almond leaves should be natural fallen leaves and not plucked from the tree, and this is true for most of the other leaves as well. Next up we have snails. Snails form a vital part of the ecosystem that I try to create for my shrimp. I've done a video on Malaysian trumpet snails which you can check out, and I also did a video on ramshorn snails. I use Malaysian trumpet snails in all of my tanks. They aerate my substrate, they eat algae, they eat dead plants, and then the shrimp eat the snail poop, which gives them another source of food. Snails are generally considered as a pest, but I like them. Just be careful with Malaysian trumpet snails and something like aqua swirl, as they tend to break it down to mush. Next up we have quality food. I did a video on cheap food that you can feed your shrimp if you want to check that out, but I'm currently busy with videos on top class foods from Dennerley and Glass Garden. And in my experience, the more expensive food works out much better and technically cheaper. I have less random deaths, healthier molts, and just better looking shrimp overall. Back to AE, Shrimp Dinner Pads, Shrimp King Complete, Shrimp King Mineral, and Mineral Junkie are just a few to start with, and these are my favorite at the moment. The one thing that I can say with any shrimp food is please don't overfeed. I feed way less than the food containers suggest, and I don't have any problems whatsoever. Feeding dishes also help to see if your shrimp are actually eating the food that you feed them. This helps to prevent overfeeding, as the leftover food don't go into the substrate but rather spread throughout the feeding dish. Feeding dishes also create a cleaner and safer environment for your shrimp. We also made a video on feeding dishes which you can check out on our YouTube channel. Next up we have water changes. Don't ever believe the myth that water changes are not necessary. If you feed your shrimp they poop, the poop gets broken down by the bacteria in your filter and ends up as nitrates in the water, and a large amount of nitrates can be toxic to your shrimp. If your nitrates level are more than 20, you should do a water changes. By doing weekly or bi-weekly or even monthly water changes, you can at least remove some of those nitrates so that they don't cause harm to your shrimp. You can check out our video about ammonia and nitrates. If you measure your TDS as well as your nitrates and find that it falls within the acceptable parameters, then it's okay not to do water changes for that week or month. Not doing water changes over extensive periods can lead to bad molts, stressed shrimp, and just random shrimp deaths. So please check your TDS and nitrate levels if you are not doing water changes and just doing water top-ups. Next up we have lights. Your shrimp don't really need light. If you have a light, just make sure that it's not on for 24 hours of the day. Your shrimp need rest away from the light. So also just make sure you give them enough hiding spaces, especially when the lights are on. Your light will also promote algae growth. The shrimp won't really eat the algae except for Amano and Sulawesi shrimp, but your shrimp will graze on the algae for biofilm and other particles that they can eat. I keep my light on for 7 hours a day just to grow a few plants and mosses inside of the tanks. Next up we have mineral stones. You can use mineral stones as it is beneficial, but they only last a short time and they are very expensive. I will much rather use remineralized RO water with some good quality food at least once a week, and then the mineral stones will not really be necessary. I don't use them, but you are more than welcome to try them. Some breeders believe that they have a great advantage. I have not had any problems without them, and I have not seen the benefit with them, so I won't be using them anytime soon. And lastly, I just want to quickly talk about plant supplements. So a lot of people keep planted aquariums. The plants need nutrients, and some of us dose certain plant feeding supplements. I don't really dose any of the planted shrimp tanks that I keep, as the health of the shrimp are more important to me than the health of the plants. All I want to say is that some of these supplements, especially the liquid supplements, have trace elements of iron that can be harmful to your shrimp. I have not noticed any of these liquid fertilizers or plant supplements that I use to be harmful, but I will much rather be on the safe side, so I don't regularly use them. Okay guys, I'm almost done with this video, but I would like to give you 3 tips. Tip number 1. Don't mix all different sorts of shrimp if you want to breed. They will interbreed and you will get some dodgy, unstable, dodgy colors, which most people won't like, and over a long period of time they will revert to a light dark brown shrimp in the case of Neocaridina, and in the case of Caridina they'll just look dodgy but sometimes a bit funky, which can be a good thing depending on what you would like to keep. If you are breeding shrimp for profit, don't waste your time doing this. Rather stick to a species specific or a line specific shrimp that you want to breed, a clean line, get that breeding and then sell that. Wasting your time trying to breed different shrimp takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and most people fail doing that. And tip number 2, don't think that breeding shrimp will make you a lot of money. It might get you a very small income every so often, but very few people actually make money from breeding shrimp. Most people just end up giving it up as they can't get them sold. And lastly, tip number 3, if you're new to the shrimp hobby and want to get into the hobby, please don't buy expensive shrimp. Get normal cherry shrimp, get them breeding. Once you have raised the babies and they have had babies, then you can go for more expensive shrimp. You can always sell the cherry shrimp or the less expensive shrimp at a later stage if you really don't want them or want to go for more expensive ones. When I started the hobby, Anton, or as we know him, Professor Aquaria, a link to his YouTube channel will be down in the description, told me that I should rather go for cherry shrimp and get them breeding, and to my regret, I did not listen to him. Not only did I kill a few good looking shrimp, I threw away a lot of money down the drain. And I mean a lot. I really wish I listened to him at that stage. So please trust me on this. Even if it does not make sense now, when you start, go for the easier to keep Neocaridina shrimp, get them breeding until their first batch of babies are adults, and when they are breeding, then you can move on from there. If you've had great success, then you will most likely thrive. Most of us will kill our first batch or 2 of shrimp. That's just fact. But guys, in closing, the most important thing for shrimp is consistency. Try to keep everything as stable as possible. Whether it's temperature, KH, GH, pH, keep everything as stable as possible. That's the best tip I can give any shrimp breeder. Consistency is key to shrimp breeding. Okay, so after all of this, if you still have questions, drop me a comment down below and I or someone else will try to give you some advice. Please remember to go check out our Facebook competition, link down in the description as I mentioned earlier. But that's it for this video guys. If this video sucked, you know what to do, but if it was awesome, get subscribed, press that like button and check out our other videos. I really hope you guys learned something today, and as always, keep it shrimple.